I am co-founder of Griyum, a Mexican startup where we produce maximum levels of nutrition with minimum environmental impact through edible crickets farmed in rural communities in Mexico. I am also in the middle of a PhD in biotechnology applied in food and nutrigenomics. But before that, you can picture me as this short, chubby guy who was bullied in elementary school. Not in an extreme way, but just enough to be here 25 years later, thinking about how can we evolve the foods that we eat every day. I love cookies, I love pastries, but they are high in carbohydrates, high in lipids, and they don't have a proper nutritional balance. In fact, these types of food represent 1/3 of the calories that we eat as a society in countries like mine, in Mexico. So because of this, from the 125 million Mexicans that we are, 90 million are overweight. And while not everyone has been impacted emotionally like I was, unfortunately, physiologically, diabetes, hypertension are in the top 3 main causes of death in Mexico and in many other parts of the world. So we were thinking about how can we introduce new macronutrients, protein, to substitute the excess of carbohydrates and sugars and lipids, and to evolve these products into a more nutritious options for everyone to have. And with that, we reached a second problem, which is that producing our protein, producing our food, is costing us our planet. Every year, 10 million hectares are deforested. That is roughly the size of Morocco. And the third cause of deforestation is agricultural land production. So with this in mind, we wanted to create something to solve this issue. Here I am with Francisco, my co-founder, and we were lost. We didn't have any idea on where to start, but we are lucky crickets. By that time, in 2016, we were working, establishing urban farms in Mexico, and we failed miserably. Every farm ended up abandoned, and it looked like this. Each farm was infested with chapulines, which is a Mexican grasshopper that is, in fact, part of our culinary tradition of eating insects. Just in Mexico, there are 500 identified species of edible insects. And we eat them as an exotic experience, as part of our touristic attractives and traditions, but it's not part of our day-to-day diet. Although we know that these are a good source of nutrition. So when we were working with the farmers, like completely ashamed of our project, one of the farmers told us that, well, these guys are right by themselves, we should take this opportunity, but maybe I'm not eager to eat them looking at the legs or the antenna. So what if we introduce them in conventional products like tortillas, like bread, like cookies? The idea was so good that by that time, the Food and Agriculture Organization had already published a report talking about edible insects as a source of protein for the next decades. That is because to produce the same amount of protein, a cricket requires up to 1,000 times less water. You can do that in 25 times less space, and emitting almost 100 times greenhouse gases. So for us, it was a realization. These studies have been updated, and just like last year in Nature journal, there was a report comparing what would happen if we substitute conventional European diet with edible insects, and the outcome is that we can reduce in 80% the climate change potential, the use of water, and the use of agricultural land. There was a huge opportunity to create an impact on an unsustainable food system, so we went on a trip to find out How can we do this? Because in Mexico, the edible insect industry depends on harvesting wild populations. And if we wanted to massify this and to take advantage of the benefits of insects, well, we couldn't just harvest all the wild populations in Mexico. We do not want to create a biodiversity problem. So we wanted to establish self-sustainable cricket farms, and that has been done in many countries around the globe for many years. So we took the chance to explore how was this being done. And in countries like Thailand, there are more than 5,000 small farmers using very artisanal and labor-intensive methods to produce crickets, while in other countries with more access to capital, they are establishing like ultra technology cricket farms with robotic arms feeding the crickets. It looks very great and sexy, but when you look at the amount of capital that you need to establish a farm, then you have to sell the crickets super expensive because you need to recover all this investment. So we came, after 3 years of research, we came to a middle point. We said we are going to innovate, bringing these two systems together. So we developed a system that with low capital requirements and automated systems, a farmer can produce in the size of a tennis court the same amount of protein than 2 soccer fields, feeding crickets with agro-industrial waste streams like grape bagasse from the wine industry in the region, or breweries' spent grains. And we saw the opportunity, it was really there, to make this a new livelihood source or option for families in Mexico. So we have empowered 25 families of sharecroppers, extending our research and technology to show them how to produce their crickets and integrating them into our value chain as suppliers of raw material. So crickets are cold-blooded. They cannot produce their own heat, and because of that, when temperature drops, they go through a natural process called diapause. For us, it's like being under anesthesia. The metabolism stops. So we take advantage of this, and then after diapause, we buy the crickets from the farmers, generating up to 4 times more income per ton than selling milk to the big corporations in Mexico. And then we apply food science and processing systems to understand how to produce super good ingredients for the industry. We sell them, for example, the Griyum cricket flour, which is a 65% high-quality protein ingredient that also contains vitamin B12, which is a good complement for a plant-based diet, dietary fiber, and omegas that are good for the body. With this, more than 17 brands have been evolving their offering with high nutritious foods, with a natural source of protein, and with a natural source of fiber. These are day-to-day products, like the bread you can use to make your everyday sandwich, like tortillas in Mexico, like sport nutrition supplements, or even snacks. But let's face it, eating insects can be scary. It can sometimes be gross. So there's still a challenge. How can we convince millions of consumers into accepting the idea of eating insects? Well, we found the answer in science. It has been studied that the best way to shape and transform consumers' acceptance is by creating appealing experiences. Experiences where the dish looks good, it smells good, it looks delicious, and it tastes amazing. And better if you are sharing this experience with friends, with more people, and having this social validation. After one experience, one consumer can shift their thinking into accepting eating crickets for a long term. So taking advantage of this, we have been creating pop-up stores in random places with amazing tasting experience, experiences and collaborating with chefs to create this access to new ways of looking at our food. Like this honey pie, which has a protein-rich cookie base with cricket flour, and it is also combining it with the exotic experience of eating other types of insects. So with this, we have achieved some milestones. We have been adding people to our mission and our idea of bringing crickets into the mainstream. We have reached the main retailers in Mexico. We have convinced top chefs to start cooking with edible crickets. And we have gone into crazy and fun endeavors like creating the first Latin American cricket beer, which was an unexpected success and sold out after just 2 weeks of producing it, and having fun, but always thinking about the fact that we cannot go back in time to avoid thousands, if not millions, of kids for being bullied like I was in elementary school, or worse, to grow up with health problems. But we can inspire, we can work together, we can jump together into thinking that food is delicious, food can be very diverse, it can be very different, and it can be sustainable. So let's keep jumping to bring everyone the opportunity to choose a more nutritious option of their favorite food products every day. Thank you very much.